Welcome, everyone. This is Meditation for Lawyers. This is not mediation for lawyers. Invariably, we have a few people show up thinking this is a mediation webinar. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you're welcome to stay with us, and I hope you do for the rest of the hour. This is also not medication for lawyers. Those of you who came hoping for a prescription dispensed, sorry to disappoint you, but we have had reports of additional endorphin production as a result of this seminar, but you never know. Hi, I'm George Felos. I am delighted and privileged to be here with you this morning. This is kind of new for us. For 2 years now, we've given Meditation for Lawyers as a continuing legal education seminar. This is the first one we've done that is not for CLE, open to everyone. We have approximately 300 attorneys, judges, paralegals, clerks, support personnel, people outside of the legal field joining us today. Let me tell you a little bit about the format. The purpose of the CLE seminar is to teach lawyers how to meditate and to enable them to establish their own meditation practice or enhance an existing practice. So today we're going to do a little bit of that in a kind of a mini form. We will be meditating. There's nothing to worry about. If you haven't meditated before, that's okay. You will be guided in the meditation, and there'll be some discussion in between the meditations and before that. And particularly, one reason we wanted to do this is that we're in extraordinary times, very challenging times with the virus, with the pandemic. You may be experiencing emotions that you haven't experienced before, frustration, uncertainty, indecision, anger, or experiencing them in a way that you haven't experienced before. You may find that your mind has been scattered, having thoughts that you haven't thought of before, because we've all faced really significant challenges, some more than others. If your family has been affected by a death or illness, we can't even begin to relate to that, especially those stories of not being able to be with your loved one while they're sick, while they're hospitalized. But other challenges too, professionally, if you're a young lawyer and you had your first jury trial scheduled and about to go and that's canceled, and you don't know when you're going to be in court again. Economic challenges, social challenges. I can't imagine being locked up in home. I've been here for 3 months with a couple young children and teaching them at the same time. I was a pretty hands-on dad, and that thought is, I can't imagine it. So we've had all these challenges, and then again, you may be doing just fine, and that's okay. But whatever challenges you have or you haven't had, we all crave that rest, relaxation, revival, restoration that we find when we encounter and rest in our core, in our center, in its source. You can give that many names. And we value that peace and happiness that emanates from our core, because it's not situational. It doesn't depend upon what's happening externally. If there's something, good or bad or pleasant, unpleasant, that sense of calm, peace, happiness is available all the time, notwithstanding the external circumstances. So what we're interested in today is encountering that in which anxiety may appear but is not anxious itself, that in which fear may be experienced but is not afraid, and that in which discord may arise but is always at peace. So that's our goal today, to encounter that more directly. And of course, our vehicle for doing this, because this is meditation for lawyers, is meditation. So this is your time where you're here also to relax, enjoy yourself, and also to learn some techniques where you can access that core, access that center during the day in a short period of time, especially if you feel a little scattered and distracted. So we're going to start first with just a brief centering relaxation meditation, and we'll do 3 meditation segments today. And I don't think I mentioned before that we're going to have this part of the webinar will be about 35-40 minutes, and the rest will be devoted to your questions about meditation, about profession, career, whatever is going on for you. We want to be available for that. By the way, there are 2 ways you can ask questions. There's a little hand icon that you can press, and you can ask your question verbally. Will unmute you. And by the way, if you hear a voice resonating from the background, it's not an apparition. It is Will, who is my compadre in this, and without whom I would not be doing this. Thank you, Will, for your technological and creative help in this. So you can ask a question verbally. You can also hit the Q&A icon and put write a written question if you like. Also, if there's any technical issues, there's a chat box. And if the sound's not coming through, or there's some technical problem or something you need to say that's not kind of directly related, Will monitors the chat box, and you can ask him something there. So I'm glad I remembered to say that. Okay, so for our meditations, just a couple of recommendations. Be in a place that is as quiet and undistracted as possible. So that means if you have a cell phone, turn your cell phone off. If you're in your office, please ask your assistant to hold your calls. If you have a giant sub sandwich that you plan on eating this hour, my recommendation is to put that aside. I think you can make it until 1 o'clock for your lunch. Also, if you've never meditated before, here's some tips as to what is helpful is your posture. Sit up straight with your spine erect, your shoulders relaxed. Also, it's helpful to have your eyes closed to minimize distractions. Now, there's nothing really mystical about that. You can meditate with your eyes open. You can meditate lying down. It's just our body isn't trained to identify the prone position with sleep and with rest. So if you're lying down, lying back, you might tend to doze off. One other thing is to keep your attention relaxed. So we're looking kind of for a relaxed attentiveness. So let me give you an example. If you overfocus the camera, it's going to be blurry, and the overfocus in meditation is being a little taut, a little tense, trying too hard. If you're under focus, you're still going to be blurry, but that's kind of sleepy, lackadaisical, and you tend to kind of drift off, daydream. So you're looking for that sweet spot of relaxed attentiveness. Okay, so get into a nice meditation posture. Close your eyes. Just first notice the silence or the relative silence, the quiet. How different that is. You're here not to do anything, not to change anything. There's nothing that has to be done right now, other than to sit and notice. You might notice the sensation of your heart beating in your chest. You might notice the pace of your breath. Feel the sensation of the soles of your feet against the floor or against your shoes, your socks. Kind of the feeling of pressure. Notice it. It could be a little tingling, heavy. Notice also how that sensation morphs. It changes. It's in flux. Feel the sensation of the air against the back of your hands, right where it meets the skin. Is it cool? You might hear something. The sound of the air conditioner. Maybe somebody in your office, a door opening or closing. In all this noticing, see how effortless it is. You don't have to do anything to hear the sound of my voice. It's just hearing that's occurring. You don't have to do anything to feel the sensation of the feet against the floor. It's just feeling. Now bring your attention to the sensation of breathing. It may be the feeling as the diaphragm expands and pushes the intercostal muscles. You may feel that sensation. You may feel the sensation of the air as it touches the tip of the nostrils, entering and exiting. Notice how breathing really is a number of subtle sensations, bodily sensations, always changing. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Notice how by the way, I didn't mean to shock you or startle you with a herd of buffalo coming towards you as you open your eyes. Notice how that was 5 minutes, that centering, bodily centering meditation. In only 5 minutes, how much more relaxed, how much more at ease you can feel in just 5 minutes. So you may be saying, okay, this is meditation for lawyers in challenging times. What are we doing with a herd of buffalo on the screen? Well, I'm going to make an analogy here. I'm not an epidemiologist, so I'm not going to talk about herd immunity, which I know little about. And we did have a picture of a giant herd or flock of sheep, but I thought we'd all enjoy the analogy to a herd of vibrant buffalo than absent-minded sheep. So we are herd animals as well. Now you may notice, and we've all seen these pictures of a school of fish moving kind of in unison. How do they do that? Or a flock of birds where they seem to move in unison, or a herd of wildebeest or something like that. Is there a collective mind? How do they do that? There's nothing magical about that. They're extremely sensitized to each other. You know, we have electromagnetic fields, we have galvanic skin responses. However they sense it, whether it's very subtle bodily movements, just the slightest, the slightest movement can have them all moving. That's a characteristic of the herd. And we are extremely sensitized to that as well, on very subtle levels, sometimes below the mental level. Now, this is easy to understand in our own personal experience. If you live with a partner and you come home and you see your partner, a word doesn't have to be spoken. You can say, "Gee, honey, what's wrong?" You know that, you sense that, whether it's body language, facial expression, how they're feeling, you know that. Or, honey, wow, you had a great day. The fact is that we are empathetic. We're empathetic animals. And it's also a fact how we can be influenced by the group or the group think. I mean, we all know about mob psychology and group psychology, where someone says after a riot, "I don't know why I threw a brick through that window. I've never done anything like that before in my life. I was just kind of swept up by it." So, you know, we're influenced by that. If you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and walk into a room with 100 people who are, oh man, yawning, sleeping, within a few minutes, you'll probably be doing the same yourself. And that, of course, is accentuated, that You know, it's not walking into a room. We're inundated by cable TV, social media, all the time. Unfortunately, the majority of which is very negative. But let me give you a concrete example here. At the beginning of the lockdown, it was time to go shopping for the first time. So I went to Publix supermarket. That's our supermarket in Florida. And we weren't wearing masks yet. In fact, they told us not to wear masks. We didn't have the one-way aisle. So I had a little bit, I had a little bit of anxiousness going to Publix. And so I went to Publix. I did my shopping. I came home and I noticed I was totally depleted. I mean, I was worn out, and I recognized that while I was there, I was afraid. And I wasn't afraid going to Publix, but while I was there, I was afraid. I was with a whole bunch of people thinking and feeling, where's this virus and can I get too close and such. We're affected by that. So, and especially in this very unique time where for the first time in my life, the entire globe, the entire planet, 7 billion people are thinking the same thing. They're all kind of tuned into that fear, anxiety, the unknown, pain, suffering. So is it any wonder that you may be feeling things more intensely, or feeling things a little differently, or having a harder time coping than you've had before, or perhaps a little bit more, finding it a little bit more difficult to become relaxed and becoming centered. Let's say your own practice, whatever it is, just doesn't seem to be doing for you as much as it did before. That's understandable. It's natural. It's natural because we're herd animals and we feel that influence. So we are going to now use meditation to more directly experience the relaxation, peace, happiness of the core and the source that is not conditioned upon those external events. So, a couple things about meditation. Meditation is not about stopping your mind. It's not about stopping your thoughts, getting rid of your thoughts. I know many people who've come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to meditate. My friends meditate, but as soon as I sit down, my mind goes haywire. I can't do it." That's not the purpose of meditation. Also, for your type A personalities out there who want to get everything right, there is no doing this wrong. Meditation is simply, let's look at it as a shift in focus. And let me use the metaphor of a painting. Big painting has a background, it has a foreground. When we look at it, our attention immediately goes to the foreground. Why? It's because the foreground appears closer, it's in more detail, there's more action happening in the foreground. That's kind of where the story of the painting is. And we may be so captured by the foreground, we don't notice the background. All meditation is a shifting of focus so the background is more apparent. And the foreground kind of recedes from our attention. It's a shift of focus, a shift of attention. And the important thing to remember is to do that, we're not getting rid of anything. You don't have to paint over the foreground of a painting in order to see the background. You just have to shift your focus and notice the background a little bit more. And of course, in this metaphor, the background is the core, center, source. The foreground are the objects that appear in that background or upon that background. And those objects are three and only three: bodily sensations, sense perceptions, and thoughts. And we have a long-standing prize or contest here. If anyone can tell us something, another object or another type of object that arises in the background rather than those three, you can have the prize, although it's never been awarded, and I don't think it will ever be. So in this next meditation, we're going to take a look at the foreground in a different way, in a different light. And that will enable us to be able to see through the foreground in a little better way and see the background. Okay, so I'm going to take my sip of water here. Get into your most comfortable meditation position. Close your eyes. Settle in for a moment. Again, you may feel your heart beating, the soles of the feet against your floor, just become grounded a little bit. You may hear a car, or in my case, a boat out there. That's hearing. That's a sense perception. I hear the HVAC through the vent. Hearing, that's a sense perception. The soles of my feet against the floor, that's a bodily sensation. The thought may arise, why in God did I take this webinar? That's a thought. I feel the diaphragm in my belly. That's a bodily sensation. Just notice that there's an endless stream of thoughts, sense perceptions, bodily sensations. What they all have in common is they arise, they're there, and then they're gone. Listening to the sound of my words, sense perception, the thought. What did he mean when he said that? It's just a thought. Now imagine for a moment that all these objects are clouds in the sky. They morph, they change, they come, they go. And imagine for a moment that you are the sky. into which these forms appear. The expansive sky. Does it matter to the sky whether the cloud is white or gray or dark? Does it matter to the sky what shape the cloud is? Is the sky ever affected by the clouds or weather that appear within it? So imagine that you are the sky, and your thoughts, bodily sensations, sense perceptions are just moving through, passing through. Be that expansiveness. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. So in that meditation, the purpose is to see that the foreground, the objects of our awareness, and I'm going to use the word awareness for the background, kind of lose their pull on us, become more transparent, more fluid when we see them for what they are. Just objects passing through the field of awareness. So in this next meditation, we're going to no longer look at those objects, but experience directly and encounter directly in that metaphor, the sky, the background, the awareness. We want to know what qualities does it have? Does it change? Does it have a beginning? Does it have an end? I mean, what is it? Now, here's a couple tips as we enter into our last meditation. There are two ideas that may be helpful, and I'm going to run through them quick. In our CLE seminar, we go through them and discuss them at greater length, and you don't have to remember them. This will be recorded. You can listen to it later. It's just to kind of implant this and get the suggestion. One is adopting an attitude of non-interference, which we already did a little bit in the other meditation. So what does non-interference mean? Well, what is the interference? The interference is judgment, comment, whatever sound, thought, bodily sensation. We can make a story about it. We can comment about it. We can judge it. We have opinions about everything. So judging, commenting. Another is liking, disliking. Some things we want, we're attracted to. Some things we dislike, we push away, we're adverse to. That's another type of interference. Another one is projecting into the future. Projecting into the future, looking back at the past is another type of interference. Well, you might say, but how can I ever encounter my thoughts and bodily sensations and sense perceptions without that type of interference? It's impossible. But remember, we're not trying to get rid of anything. It's just the act of noticing. If you're judging, you just notice, hey, that's judging. If I'm commenting, I'm commenting. If I'm projecting into the future, that's projecting. That's all you need to do is notice, and it takes care of itself. Just the noticing is a form of disengagement or non-interference. The more energy you put into the methods of interference, it's like putting fuel on the fire. It makes it bigger. Just noticing it removes the fuel, removes the power, the grab of those things. Okay, so that's non-interference. The other is adopting a kind of a posture of welcoming, or we can call it benign indifference. Okay, so what's that? Most of us have a guard by the gate all the time. A thought comes, we say, oh, I like that thought. It's okay, come on in. Bodily sensation comes in, oh, that's pleasurable, I like that. Thought comes in that, oh, thought of, hey, I'm jealous of my neighbor. I wish I had my neighbor's car. You can't come in. I'm a good person. I don't have those type of thoughts. So we're constantly choosing what to let in, what's acceptable. So in welcoming, you just remove the guard from the gate. Everything is welcome. And in the benign indifference, let me give you a couple examples. You put a blue vase in front of a mirror, it reflects a blue vase. You put a pink vase in front of the mirror doesn't say, I'm not going to reflect it. I don't like pink, I prefer blue. It equally reflects the pink. Another metaphor is a flat screen TV. It doesn't matter to the screen, the movie playing. It can be a sweet romance, that's great, or it can be a World War II drama where megatons of bombs are being dropped and there's utter destruction. It makes no difference to the screen. That's kind of a metaphor about benign indifference. So we're the screen here, we're the mirror. That's the attitude posture to take. Now, we're going to go into our last meditation. I know I've just said a lot. That's a lot. As I said, this is kind of a mini part of our CLE seminar. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't try to remember it. Just kind of go with it and let's see what happens, okay? Okay. Why don't you kind of raise your shoulders up a little bit. Do some circles. Okay. We've been sitting for a little bit of time. Whoops, my hearing aids came out. Okay. Close your eyes. Sink in. Again, you might notice some of the sounds around you, some of the sensations of the body. A thought may come through. But let's not put any emphasis on those objects. Kind of metaphorically sit back, fall back into the expansiveness, into the sky, into the background, into the screen, into your source. That which is aware of all the objects that arise, exist, and then leave. That awareness. Now ask yourself, that which is aware, does it have a boundary? Is there a place where this awareness doesn't exist? Can I go to a place like a fence or a boundary line where awareness is on one side but not on the other? Or is it unlimited? Is it boundless? By the same token, can it be located anywhere? But how could it be located in any one place if it's in all places, so to speak? Keep breathing. If thoughts come, if distractions come, the gateman's not at the door. Let them come, let them pass through. You can still be the sky, the background, in the presence of those objects. Does this awareness or background have a form? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? Or is it formless, shapeless, colorless? Is there more than one awareness? As you listen to a sound, there's the awareness of the sound. As you feel the sensation of your feet against the floor, there's awareness of the sensation. Is there a separate awareness for thoughts, sensations, sense perceptions? Or is there just one awareness? Does the awareness have a religious persuasion? Does it care about any religious persuasion? Sink deep into that awareness. Notice how natural that is. How familiar in a way it is. Ask yourself, does this awareness have a gender or no gender? Is it genderless? Is this awareness worried about anything? That which is aware of worry isn't worried. Okay, let's just take a few more moments in silence to enjoy the peace, the happiness, the perfection of the background, of our center, of our source. And slowly open your eyes. So, how can you access that during the day when you're busy, when you don't have time to sit and meditate? Well, here's some tips. One is, if your mind has you racing, if the mind is racing, always by centering on the breath, by feeling the sensations of the breath, can quickly calm a racing mind. There's also this is almost kind of like a new muscle you find that you want to develop that muscle, and it's a little hard to find. But this muscle of falling into the background, of being present of the background during the day, or more present of the background, it's like developing that muscle. And there's almost a sensation of falling backwards, stepping back. So if you find yourself busy, distracted, just kind of metaphorically fall backwards a little bit. Another tip is to ask yourself, let's say you're feeling angry about something. This is an inquiry. Ask the question, who is it that's angry? Can you find the who that is actually angry? Or if you look at that for a moment, does it become obvious that the anger is a set of bodily sensations that may feel unpleasant, combined with thoughts of dispute or anger? All of those are moving unit in the realm of non-interference, of welcoming, which de-emphasizes the foreground. Another is to ask yourself the question, if you have disturbing thoughts or feelings, what precedes this? What is there before the thought? What is there before the feeling? These are all for you to try. Some may work, some may not work. And another one, which is kind of a good, kind of when all else fails. You've tried things, you're just stuck. And let's say I'm hopelessly confused I can't figure anything out. I have no idea what's going on, what's happening, what to do. Just to say, confusion is like this. Yeah, this is what confusion is like. This is what, oh, anger is like this. Frustration. Frustration's like this. It's also a way to promote non-interference. So those are all tips. Now I see I misjudged the time. This is a lawyer taking, Your Honor, give me another 10 minutes, please. I need it. I went over my time. I will be here as long as there are questions. So we can go, we'll go as long as we want to answer questions. So please don't feel that, oh, we're stuck to this period of time, and feel free to stay on and ask your questions. Now, because we're running towards the end of the hour and some of you may have commitments, I'm just going to give a few announcements before we start the questions, and then we'll end with the questions and answers. I advise you to do meditation or try meditation on a daily basis, even if it's only 10 minutes a day. Try it for a month, see what happens. We are a resource. You can call me, you can email me. We have questions and answers articles on the website. So make use of us if you'd like to. We appreciate feedback. How can we make this better? How can we offer you things that are a benefit for you? And when we send you this recording, we're going to include a little survey. So if you can give us your feedback, we'd really appreciate it. On June 24th, we have our 1-hour CLE meditation for lawyers. We're accredited in Florida and Oregon. And in Florida, if you take an out-of-state or an ABA CLE, Florida generally accepts it. I think that's the case with most states as well. So if you can, join us for our CLE seminar. It's not free. It's for the outrageously reasonable price of $35 to cover our costs and such. If you're a member of a group or organization that may benefit from this, a governmental organization, state attorney, public defender, please join us, or not join us, but contact us. We'd be happy to do something specifically for your organization. Okay, thank you all very much. And time for questions. Will, do we have anyone who has their hand up?
No hands raised yet, but we have a few written questions.
Okay. Don't be shy. It's okay. By the way, if you put your hand up, you won't. We won't see you. So if you're in your pajamas, like many people have been the last 3 months, don't worry, we won't see you. Okay. Karen asks a question. For me, the other thing that I think of as background are emotions separate from thoughts. So I would suggest that emotions or feelings are bodily sensations. So I feel tense. If you look at that, how do you know you feel tense? Is because you're experiencing a bodily sensation. Or I feel angry. Even if there are no thoughts associated, we give a label to a cluster of bodily sensations that we call anger. And what is that? Heat in the chest. Could be the feelings, if you're really angry, it's kind of like a feeling of ants crawling all over you, like you're being bottled up and want to explode. But those are emotions Those emotions comprise of bodily sensations that arise in awareness, appear in awareness, and then leave awareness. And as they're there, they morph and change. So I would say for you, Karen, think of the background as that into which those sensations arose. Before the emotion arose, it wasn't there forever. What was there? What existed? And that which existed into which the emotion arose or the sensation arose, I would call the background. Okay, Philip says, thanks for this. You're welcome, Philip. I enjoy Sam Harris's Waking Up app for a quick 10-minute guided meditation. I'm not familiar with that, so Sam recommends it. You can give that a try. There are many, many online. We have on our YouTube channel, there is a meditation called, I believe, Relax and Renew, Exploring the Background, which is a guided meditation. The meditation part lasts about 15 minutes. So that's one. When I meditate, I don't use guided meditations. And I think the more you meditate and the more you're able to shift from the foreground to the background, the less you might be interested in guided meditations. But the main thing is you do what works for you. And so whatever seems to work for you, go for it. Okay. Anonymous attendee asks, silly question. I am meditating and then I have an itch on my skin that is distracting. Do I scratch? Well, that's not a silly question. That's a very interesting question. Before I did the type of meditation that I shared with you, I did Buddhist meditation, Vipassana meditation for many years. And their philosophy was, if there's pain in your knee, don't change your posture. If there's an itch, don't scratch it. They're just bodily sensations and that come and go, and they may be really uncomfortable, but stick with it. I suppose there's a value to that in that teaches us not to be immediately, moved by whatever distraction we have. But I wouldn't go that far. I would just say that if you want to scratch, go ahead and scratch. If you want to kind of explore, that's kind of an interest, that itchy. What is that itchiness? Where is that sensation? If you want to explore the sensation a little bit and you find an interest in doing that, then do it. If you don't find the interest, then go ahead and scratch. The only thing you need to meditate is an interest in it. So if you find something that comes up that you find interested in, what's that about? What's at the bottom of that? Fine, take a look at that. But in this meditation, it is the overall suggestion is to shift the focus and the interest from the foreground to the background. Sylvia asks, your website, please. It would be nice to have something like a daily 10-minute meditation. Our website is meditationforlawyers.org. Our YouTube channel is, if you go to YouTube, I think it'll say George Felos Meditation for Lawyers is the YouTube channel. In the meditation I just mentioned on our YouTube channel, Relax and Renew, Explore the Background, there are 3 5-minute meditations in that. They're kind of distinct. So you can listen to that one if you only have 10 minutes and listen to a couple of them. Sean asks, is there a course number? And yes, there is a course number for our CLE course, but this seminar was not for CLE credit. When you take the CLE course, yes, then we give you the course number, and then you go ahead with the course number and register.
Hi, yes, this is Hallie. How are you?
I'm great, Hallie. How you doing?
Fine. First of all, George, I want to thank you so much for this webinar. This was fantastic.
Oh, you're very welcome.
2, what time of the day should we meditate? Should we do it first thing in the morning before we begin our workday, during the workday if things get crazy, after the workday? What do you recommend?
For me, I always, for the most part, meditated the first thing in the morning. And the reason was this, is if I said, oh, well, I'm going to make my breakfast first, or I'm a little hungry, or I'm going to do this first, it was so easy for then to go on with my day and not meditate, because things started snowballing and one thing led to another. So for me, the most successful way to have a daily meditation practice was to devote the time first thing in the morning. And sometimes that's not possible. Some people have better times. Some people enjoy meditating the last thing in the evening. So I would say do what works for you, but for me, the best time was first thing in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Brooks says, I would love the recording too. Thank you so much. And yes, we will send everybody who registered the recording along with the survey. Okay, Stephanie asks, what are some helpful suggestions to get started with a daily meditation practice? I'm one of the type A's that has a hard trouble being still. I want this practice more than ever now. Well, we are creatures of habit, and doing it at the same time during the day is helpful. Also, having a dedicated space in your home is helpful. The other suggestion is what I mentioned to the gentleman who had an itch, or the attendee who had an itch. If you are feeling agitated, as if you can't sit still, so let's call that jumpiness, and use some of the techniques I mentioned. Being unable to sit still is, in essence, a bodily sensation, and you might have an interest in those bodily sensations, or look at them rather than jumpiness as strictly bodily sensations you can look at. Or ask yourself the question, who's jumpy? I would try those techniques. And if you can sit still for 3 minutes and then get up, fine. Then tomorrow you might be able to sit and meditate for 5 minutes. That's fine. There's sometimes I've meditated where I'm tired and I think I might fall asleep, so I stand up. I stand up and continue the meditation, and then I sit down again. So I would try. I hope some of those tips, Stephanie, are helpful. And Sylvia says, "Thanks so much. It's lovely. You're so welcome. Again, my pleasure and a privilege to be here with you today. So I'm going to wish everyone a good day, and let's conclude the seminar."